Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. This week I'm going to show you how to make caramelized apple filling in the slow cooker. My husband and I have been having spooky Sundays, and also just leading up to the holiday season I've been making a lot of different desserts, and I've been experimenting with making them or elements of them in the slow cooker. The apples will be made entirely in the slow cooker as I mentioned, and the crust will be made in a food processor, so it's very minimal work and comes together very quickly. This pie can be made one of two ways. You can do double crust, or as I will make it in this video, with a bottom crust and a crumble on top. Sometimes I crave both. It alternates every single year, but this year we're definitely going for that crumble topping. This recipe uses green apples because I prefer my apple pie to be tart from the apples. If you prefer red apples, choose to do it this way, but green apples, in my opinion, are the perfect balance to a sugary sweet fruit pie. So without further ado, let's get to the recipe. So our crust comes together with only a few simple ingredients. All-purpose flour, a little bit of whole wheat flour, a pinch of salt, cashew butter, if you want a little bit of coconut sugar, and then coconut manna. Coconut manna is the healthier version of coconut oil. It has actual coconut in it, and it's basically blended until it becomes a butter. I like to use this one because it's more nutrient dense than just coconut oil, but use whichever one you have on hand. All you need to do for the crust, because I've already put my ingredients in a bowl, is dump my ingredients into a food processor and have it come together and form a crust that we will then let chill in the refrigerator until we assemble everything. So for the crust, we're going to take our food processor, which I've linked below, and add all of our ingredients. We're going to start with flours, whole wheat, and all-purpose, and you just smack it right in there, in addition to coconut manna, ideally not frozen, as mine was. It's very hard when it's resting in the refrigerator, so make sure to let it come to room temperature. So take it out of your fridge, or if you have it in your pantry, use it nice and soft. Add your cashew butter and your bananas to bind for sweetness, or you can use ice cold water. I always have very brown bananas in the refrigerator, and this is a perfect way to use them up. Your crust will start to combine on its own, so I recommend being a little patient here because the S blade in your food processor will do all of the heavy lifting for you, and once the dough is clinging off the side of the blender plastic container, you know it's ready to go. You don't want to over combine it because then the crust will not be short enough and it'll actually be a little hard. To chill the crust, you can do this the day before or the day of when you're cooking the pie. You want to put it between parchment paper. I like to roll it out to a circular shape. You can do this into a square, whatever you prefer, and let it cool down. For our apple pie filling, like I mentioned in the introduction, we will be using green apples because of their tartness. We will be using 6. And then we're gonna peel them and chop them up. 8 to 9 dates, chilling in some water to soften them. This will be one of our sweeteners. You wanna pit them, and then we're gonna blend them so that they're really nice and creamy. So some plant-based sweetness. I've added a teaspoon of vanilla extract with about 2.5 tablespoons of lemon juice because this really brings out the flavors in the apples while they're cooking in the slow cooker. And most pie fillings have a little bit of lemon juice for that extra kick, that acidity that balances out the sweetness. I have monk fruit sweetener because it's super sweet and very low calorie. Then I have a half a cup of coconut sugar because it's lower glycemic. I also just like the flavor of it, but you can use regular sugar or brown sugar. I have a tablespoon of Ceylon cinnamon. Ceylon cinnamon is healthier than the cinnamon that's commercially sold in stores, so I get this online. I will have this linked in the description if you're interested in it. It's healthier, in other words. And then 3 tablespoons of cornstarch. Once everything is nice and hot and starts to boil in the slow cooker, this cornstarch will help the pie filling come together and have that pie filling consistency. To make our filling, we're going to start by taking our dates and making sure that they do not have any hard pits in them. As mentioned in the introduction, I like to use green apples for all of my sweet pies because they have an acidity. They offset the sugariness of the filling or of any sugar that you add to them. I like to peel all of my green apples that I'm going to use. I'm going to compost the skin, and then I'm going to cut them into individual cubes. You can choose to keep them as long slivers or dice them as small or as large as you prefer. I like to go somewhere in between, making them medium-sized because I do like a considerable bite of apple whenever I'm making and enjoying apple pie. I toss in the lemon juice, the vanilla extract, all of the sweeteners that I mentioned, and in the food processor, I quickly break up the dates and combine everything and set it aside. For the crumble topping, combine oats, whole wheat flour, coconut sugar, cinnamon, salt, and avocado oil or olive oil in a medium to small mixing bowl, and you just combine these ingredients and set it aside. You can do this also the night before. It can chill in your fridge for up to 24 hours, no problem at all. When you're ready to get everything going, we're just going to be cooking the filling in the slow cooker. So grease your slow cooker so nothing sticks to the edges. Add all of your apples and then cook on high or low. This is completely up to you for the duration specified here. Something you can also do if you are not in the mood to make pie is once the apples are cooking in the slow cooker, like mine are right now, you just lay that crumble topping that's currently in the refrigerator on top, and you have fresh apple crumble entirely made in the slow cooker. Cook your apple pie filling for 2 hours on high, or if you want to cook it on low, for 4 hours. This is completely up to you, and full instructions are in the description. For the crust and the assembly of our pie, if you're going to be using the filling to make a full pie, is to take your crust out of the refrigerator and with a rolling pin, roll it to the size of your baking pan. I like to lightly grease my pie pan just to make sure that nothing sticks to the bottom, and then I add my crust to the bottom, making sure that it's very nice and evenly thinned on all sides, but also I like to leave a little bit of a crust because I do think it looks rather nice. To avoid any soggy bottoms, I did not need to do this because I baked my pie really high at the beginning and then I lowered the temperature, but you can par bake your pie in the oven for 15 minutes with some baking beans or some rice just to make sure that there's no problems with the bake. Make sure that your crust is even in every little corner and then add your pie filling. I let mine chill in the refrigerator the night before because I do this pie in steps to make my life very easy. I like to crimp the outside of my pie because I think it looks much nicer, but you can just crimp it with a fork if you prefer. I add my topping of my oats and my cinnamon and my olive oil, healthy fats on top. I add a little bit of extra granulated sugar and then I bake at 375 Fahrenheit for 30 minutes. As I said before, if you want to not par bake your crust, I recommend cooking it on high for about 10 to 15 minutes so the middle of the crust cooks completely and then lowering it to 375. By the time I took this video, I had eaten most of the pie here, so that's a testament to how good it is, and I really hope you enjoy this beautiful recipe. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. Hit that subscribe button, click the like button, leave a comment down below on your thoughts for this recipe, and stay tuned next week for another recipe. See you next time.